The final petition article, the one-year moratorium on zoning bylaw, section 10 PRDs, and we'll ask Mr. Madigan to speak to that.
Do I have to start it? I'm sorry. Up there it is.
Okay.
Am I able to control this?
Yeah.
That one or the other one? There it goes. Okay. This is Jack Madigan, 215 Prairie Street. And this is actually a PRD moratorium. It is based on the Envision Concord Bridge to 2030 report that was adopted by the Planning Board in 2018 and voted and approved by the Select Board also in 2018 in July. The point of the 2030 plan was basically to really start to look at Concord's carbon neutral future. Okay, how are we planning for the future environmentally, sustainability, and conservation on all different facets? Right now, I do not believe that the PRD plans or the Section 10 of the PRD takes into effect the 2030 plan, okay, the Envision Concord plan. The bylaws need to be updated. I don't believe that right now we are targeting developers with what our PRD plans are. A planned residential development should be what the town wants. They're supposed to be putting forth in terms of the planning board and what they're proposing, PRD should be what the town is looking for in terms of their future, okay? We should be putting forth what that plan should be. Right now, we have a bunch of a PRD, planned residential development, section 10, which every time what we're doing now is we're updating it, okay? We need to really holistically look at this with regard to the Envision Concord plan, okay, and actually look to see what needs to be changed, updated, worded, everything else. Right now, the 2030 plan is just aspirational, okay? It's just what we're trying to do in terms of when we are feeling good and maybe a couple drinks are into us and we're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if we do this? None of that is reflected in the PRD. Okay, what we need to do is we need to start looking at 50% of the buildings in a PRD must be, 2,500 square feet. No, we should be looking at, as someone else has noted, we should be targeting workforce development. Okay, we should be looking at our teachers, our firemen, those folks. We should be looking at folks who are looking to downsize from their large home in Concord Center to a smaller house. They want to stay here, they like their church, they like their neighbors, they would prefer to downsize, okay? But they don't want to leave Concord. What are the options? There really aren't many options. If you're going to be a PRD, okay, and you're a developer coming in, you're buying the piece of property, and then you're trying to maximize your return on investment. That is really what you're trying to do, and you're trying to fit it in with regard to all the different bylaws that are presented to you. Okay, the Planning Board's Article 34 hits on some of this, but I still don't feel it goes far enough. Okay, again, it is just touching on the edges in terms of the size of the projects. We should make these projects, Riverwalk down over here is a prime example of what I feel we should be doing all over town. Okay, in terms of carbon neutral, okay, we have parking. We're still arguing about 1 or 2 car garages. Okay, we should be doing centralized parking. Okay, we should be really kind of allowing people to, if they have a car, they use it once a week. They're elderly, whatever, all on one floor. Okay, so that it's not these huge 5,000 square foot homes that, you're right, they should be in. Not in a PRD, they should be in the other types of developments that are going in out there. There's already a lot of large homes in Concord. Okay, residents expected that the 2030 plan, which was worked on over the course of a year and a half, that was going to actually have some impact. And it has in some areas, okay? I'm on a biking subcommittee, and we're trying to do a lot of the stuff that is, bike storage, things like that on the new schools, putting storage for new bikes so the kids can start riding their bikes to school, things like that. That's all positive, okay? But from a planning PRD standpoint, we're not doing enough. There is, right now, it's just aspirational in terms of what we're trying to put forth. We really need to look at the PRD bylaws and literally put a halt on it, and over the course of the next year, update these, the bylaws in terms of all the conservation, sustainability, the size of the issues. One person asked a previous questioner, why aren't you looking at subdivisions and going after those types of projects? You have to start somewhere. PRDs are one area that we're running out of land for PRDs, first off. We're in terms of where we're looking to put these. Okay? So we're starting to come down to a finite amount of spaces around town where a PRD would actually go, or a subdivision would be able to go. We need to start to be pushing back on contractors and developers that are coming into our town for a reason. They want to be in Concord. We get it. But we need to raise the bar for letting them into the town. These are the things, if you're going to do a PRD, you need to do. Okay? And we should, hold firm on that. Okay? Everyone's like, well, then they're going to do a subdivision instead. Well, I could only do one of these this year, okay? Next year, we're doing subdivisions, okay? I think we need to really start looking at making this much more in terms of carbon neutral and really start going after sustainability. We're never going to get there. I mean, we have to start being concerned with the environment and everything else, and it's just not being accomplished, okay? We need to do more, and we need to do it faster. And the easiest way to make the biggest impact is to go after these large projects, okay, and to really put in some real standards on that. Here's just a few things. We're seeking a carbon neutral future. We need to start having the PRDs make a positive impact, okay? All of our new schools, we're doing that with the schools that we're all building. Okay, the new middle school, it's all sustainable, green. Okay, we should be doing that with all of our new buildings in town. In a historical town, you lack an area that you can't hit the historical areas in terms of solar panels on the roof and things like that. But all new stuff you can try to get there with, okay? And we should be working harder on that. I just don't believe that the Envision Concord document that the town took so long, adopted, and voted on is where it stops. I really do believe that we need to use that as a blueprint for going forward in this town and for doing all of our future development. And here's just the Article 43 as it states, and it wasn't really reflected on the document agenda tonight, places a one-year moratorium on approval of zoning bylaw section 10, the PRDs. The planning board will not accept or review any new PRDs for a one-year period until next town meeting, okay, when we would bring back the language and then adopt it, hopefully, okay? And it needs to reflect the vision and goals set forth in the Envision Concord Bridge to 2030. Okay, our long-range plan that we've been considering. Unless we change the wording, the town itself will not be covered legally in terms of when we go to these meetings, we're having the meetings with the developers, and we're describing things from the 2030 plan that we would like to see in their development, and it's not there. We have, what do you mean? That has never been adopted. Even though the select board took it on, it's not in our bylaws, and it needs to be. Thank you.
Okay, so starting with questions from the board. Questions about this?
No.
I do have one.
Excellent. What is your question?
So my question is, what is the specific language in the comprehensive long-range plan that is tied towards residential development and sustainability of residential development that you're referring to in being, reflecting the vision and goals? I mean, when I look at the plan, I see just a specific, goals here to basically consider raising the energy saving requirements of the building code with the long-term goals consistent with the sustainability framework, which is another thing that we have. And it's basically consider EV plug compliant for each garage, require solar on 3-story buildings, and consider enhanced R value requirements on new construction. That's the most specific requirements I can find. And I think actually what happened was when we went back and we're trying to propose the Section 10 changes, I looked through this And I was surprised how modest the recommendations were. And I think what we find is that the conversation is accelerating about sustainability and that we've already moved beyond this. And in fact, the recommendations that we've made, I think, are in some sense more aggressive than what's being proposed in the comprehensive long-range plan. So I just don't see the premise reflected, in this document that you've got stated as the basis for your amendment.
Right. It's the aspirational manner in which the document was written that we need to get past. We need to go towards putting limits on what we're looking at.
But it doesn't even aspire to some of...
Oh, sure it does.
Well, I think it's shocking if you actually look in there and look for residential development specifically and the specific sustainability.
It directly says workforce housing, which we're not targeting in this.
So what I would recommend is tie your presentation to the specific recommendations. That's what I'd suggest rather than a broad statement.
Okay.
Okay, that's just a suggestion.
You're saying for town meeting?
Yeah, for town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say the more you can pull out like the very specific language, the better the presentation will be.
Okay.
More helpful.
Okay, if there are any other comments from the board, then let's go to the
Okay,
public.
Ellen Quackenbush again from 206 Prairie Street. I get what you're saying about it being aspirational and vague, and maybe that's a challenge to the planning board, is that I think that most people in town, myself included, thought that we'd be carbon neutral by a certain date and that we would have our employees in town be able to live in town. So I think what Jack is saying is maybe there's a gap between that envision, which I believe people didn't think were aspirational. We thought that that was a plan, that, the planning board, which has been so innovative in terms of what you've done for this current town meeting, take up the lance, I'd say, and go further for our children, workers in town, and so forth. I just think you need to go farther, faster. Thank you.
Ruth Lauer, Keyes Road. Are you planning on a new committee to do the work that will update and include and reflect the vision? Or are you thinking that the planning board, in their free time, will do this? And number two, what would be the metrics? What do you envision would be the new plan, the new...
The new metrics I view is a PRD which adheres to workforce housing.
green?
Green workforce housing, correct.
Okay.
Okay, which is carbon neutral, which right now is not what we're aspiring to. Okay, we're still playing on the edges, as Ellen mentioned. We need to get there sooner, okay? And what's going to happen over the next year if this is defeated, okay, and we don't have a moratorium, is we're going to, again, put a whole bunch more out there, okay, in our PRD inventory, okay, and all these projects are going to get passed because they're all acceptable right now to where the bylaws are, okay? And I'm thinking that we need to get a lot more stringent, okay? That if people and developers want to come into Concord, okay, they need to start to look at what the people here want. We don't want the 5,000 square foot houses. There's enough of those out there that are available and they're not selling, okay? People are looking to downsize, okay, but stay in Concord. People looking, young families are looking to move in here. Folks earlier was talking about having homes under 2,000 square feet, okay, on one level. That's what people are looking for. And if you could combine that with carbon neutral and sustainability and do things like that and use the site better and have solar panels, all the different things that we're talking about on the different committees in town and combine them into bylaws, I think that's where we need to go. And in terms of how would this be accomplished, I would propose doing a subcommittee, and you get folks, a member from the planning board, you get a member from the sustainability committee, and the different committees, Concord Can, things like that, and you get folks to put together a subcommittee.
Okay. There's,
No, I'm just thinking of staffing this committee. It wouldn't hurt to have a developer or two for their ideas.
and often you do get bylaw amendment, sorry, it wouldn't necessarily, this isn't a bylaw amendment, but you would get warrant articles that would propose, for example, the creation of such a committee. But this doesn't create such a mechanism.
And Matt, can I comment?
What?
Can I comment? Or I do want to defend a little bit the new site design criteria that are included in our proposed amendment. We did give a lot of consideration to what the major aspects of that were, and we stayed away from making specific goals because we wanted it to last over time. So I think had we included something like it must, include this exact level of whatever it is, R value, whatever, it's easier to see with the eye where we were, that it's included.
Well,
But I think there was a reason that we stayed away from that, and so it might look softer than we think it is.
it also...
The standard that we plan to hold developers to. So I think that the amendments that we're offering are pretty good and comprehensive and consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Secondly, we have to be careful not to conflict with the state building code.
Right.
The state building code prevails over our, areas. If we can't specify a certain R value, for example. We could offer it as an incentive, but we cannot offer it as a minimum. The other consideration is that a developer can always decide that they're going to do a subdivision. And then in the subdivision case, we have no say about any of these criteria. So, it gets back to that quandary of that we want to incent developers to this alternative form of development. But if it becomes too onerous, then we lose all leverage. It becomes a subdivision. So that's really because subdivision control law is a whole different piece of state law, and we have a less say over subdivisions. Yeah. Question from the public.
Tanya Galis, 62 Prescott Road. I was going to actually raise the subdivision consideration as a concern that that if there is a moratorium on PRDs, then potentially applicants will go for subdivisions and insist on more, leeways for building these subdivisions. That being said, Matt, when I was on the tree preservation subcommittee, we were told both by the planning board liaison and by the town planner at the time that the planning board did have some say in, at least the trees and subdivisions, and I assume that goes for other factors too. I don't know the subdivision regulations that well, but that's what we were told, just to put it out there. However, again, if the PRD option is taken away from the applicants, it's possible that they will be very insistent on their rights, whatever they may be with subdivisions. I just wanted to throw that in the discussion ahead of the town meeting. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no other questions from the public, then I believe that I can close the public hearing for this town meeting public hearing for planning board articles, and we will now continue our business as a board. So thank you to all who have attended for that purpose. You're welcome to stay and watch us approve some approval not required plans, which are always riveting. Okay. To endorse approval not required plans. Okay. So let's just give 3 minutes to clear the room.
Very short.
Just short. These only take 5 minutes each, typically. Oh, man. Well, it's still videotaped. Our whole, everything's videotaped, so, yeah, we stay on. We stay on live. Yeah. And it's supposed to be. Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. So we still need to continue with the regular meeting?
Yeah, so
What's first?
you've got number 22-2, Assabet. So let me call the next order of business, which is the approval not required plan 20-2, the Assabet Nominee Trust at 2194 Main Street.
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
Okay. Is this mic on? This mic?
Okay, we're still going.
Yeah, we're still. I think we need the speakers
you
on
can't
to the
hear out
extent that
here,
we still
yes,
have an
please.
audience. Yeah. Okay, we're back. So, the next order of business is the approval not required plan number 20-2, the Assabet Nominee Trust at 2194 Main Street, parcel 2326-2.
So this is a property out West Concord. As you're going, I think it's the old insurance. Is it insurance building?
Yep.
Yep. So the property's in the Resident C Zone District. It requires 80 feet of frontage, 10,000. No, Resident B Zone District, 125 feet of frontage and 20,000 square feet of area with at least 50% upland. The property owner is proposing to divide the lot into two separate building lots. The existing building would need to be demolished. Each lot has over 125 feet of frontage, over 20,000 square feet, and over 10,000 square feet of upland.
Okay.
So
And let's see, do we have our agenda memo? Anybody want to propose a motion? The form of which has been conveniently provided.
I'd make a motion that we move to endorse the plan for the Assabet Nominee Trust by Thompson Liston Associates, Inc., dated February 25, 2020, as approval not required because the division of the attractive land shown on the plan is not a subdivision because lots 1 and 2 have the required area and frontage for the Residence B zoning district as required by the Concord zoning law. And to authorize the chair clerk or town planner to endorse the plan.
Any second?
I was going to second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Then all in favor? Okay. Any opposed? All right. Next one. So the next one is the approval not required plan 20-3, the Southbridge Boathouse, estate of S. Rohan at 496 and 502 Main Street, parcel 3952-1.
So I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Southbridge Boathouse.
Oh, yeah.
So the property is located in the Limited Business District Number 5 in the front of the lot, and the remainder of the lot is in Residence A. Yes. There are no frontage area requirements in the Limited Business Number 5 zoning district. So the applicant is proposing to divide off 496 and 502 on two separate lots, and then a back remainder portion, parcel A, which we're recommending that a note be added.
It's not a buildable lot.
It's not a buildable lot, not just a non-residential lot. It specifically needs to state that it's a non-buildable lot for parcel A.
Is there any minimum parcel size in the limited business district?
No, there's
No,
no
so you can just
minimum
carve it
area.
up as much as you want.
frontage.
Okay.
So,
Correct.
so there's no criteria it needs to meet to be an A&R?
I think there's a 10-foot front yard setback for a new building, so these are
Existing.
These are existing legal non-conforming structures.
And then I guess in that limited business district, it's mostly just uses that are specified.
Correct.
Every other dimensional requirement, well, there must be maximum heights and things like that.
I believe there's maximum height and a 10-foot front yard setback
Wow,
requirement.
okay.
And
What's the point?
So this is the current lot? This is a current lot line?
no, this is
There could
currently
be a
one
new
lot.
thing
The whole thing is one lot?
It's currently, the
put
whole
in
thing
there,
is one
so
lot.
Sell this off and have some.
And the business district is the whole thing, or just?
The business district runs almost the full front yard boundary.
So this would effectively create a second business district lot?
That a business could be, yeah, placed there, a new building, whatever, yeah. Could be sold and, yeah.
Which is beyond the scope of the board's
Decision
discussion
whether something is
under
actually
an A&R
buildable
plan.
there. It's just that a lot can be created there. That's what we're trying to say. Yeah. Okay.
These things get put before us, you never know what we're going to say, so, all right.
Can you just say that? You don't say the whole thing. So what portion of the property can be developed after this is an A&R? It's just where it's below that dotted line?
Well,
I'm not sure
Well,
any of it can be further developed, but, which is beyond, again,
the
beyond the
scope of what we're doing, we're just
what the
carving
board's
out lots here.
discussing.
So, okay.
And so this is the lot that's being created. And you're right, we're doing three different, yeah.
So, but,
Is there any basis on which to decline the A&R?
no.
No. So
If
that's
it
the thing.
meets-
Well, the basis is if it didn't actually, if this lot didn't provide the other requirements, but there are almost none. So it will require, it does meet the requirements almost by definition. They could, it seems like they could create 45 lots here if they wanted to, right? There's no minimum width, there's no,
Correct,
yeah,
but
they're not. They're
beyond the
just
scope
making
of
one.
this A&R,
Yeah.
to Kate's question, I think all of the property is within the 100-year floodplain.
Great,
So whether there's any development potential for new buildings, I seriously do not think so.
All right, can anyone make a motion here,
Yeah,
please?
I'd make a motion to endorse the plan for Southbridge Boathouse by G.C. Wilson Company, dated February 2020. Is that the full date on it?
Yeah, that's
February
what's there.
2020 is approval not required because the division of the tract of land shown on the plan is not a subdivision because Lot 1 and 2 have the required area and frontage as required by the Concord zoning bylaw on an adequate public way, namely Main Street, and Parcel A is labeled as not a building lot, and is it labeled not a building lot on the plan? Or was that going to
No,
be?
I will add that label.
Okay, subject to it being labeled not a building lot.
Correct.
And to authorize the chair, clerk, or town planner to endorse the plan.
Okay, any discussion? All right, then all in favor? Okay, thank you. And now we'll move to the third approval not required plan, which is Symes Development and Permitting LLC for 10B Highland Street, 1440, 1450, and 1468 Main Street, parcels 2407, 2408, 2409, 2423.
This property is currently 3 lots. You can see in your agenda memo, I think it's 1, 2, 3. So the applicant is proposing to lay out 3 additional lots. It's in the residency zone district, requires 10,000 square feet of area, 80 feet of frontage. Every lot shown on the plan, lot A, B, C, D, E, and F, all have at least 80 feet of frontage. It has 78.79 on Main Street and 127.19 on Highland Street.
So this would be a
Lot B.
Highland Street lot.
So every lot has over at least 80 feet of frontage and over 10,000 square feet. There are 2 non-buildable parcels which have been labeled not a separate building lot.
So this is a completely different plan than the PRD that we looked at. This is a...
I'm not discussing the PRD, I'm discussing this
Right,
A&R
so
plan
this
that's
is,
before
no,
the
but
board.
just clearly then, if this plan ever got executed,
I'm not discussing the PRD, I'm discussing this A&R plan that's
Okay.
before the board.
all right.
Well, just to be, clear, if this plan were executed, that land
It is non-buildable.
I'm not discussing that.
But why is that not a
labeling
buildable lot?
it
Currently, this is not a building lot because it does not have frontage on
Frontage,
an
but
adequate way.
frontage could be created.
This is not a buildable lot because it does not have at least 80 feet of frontage on a public or private adequate way.
So if we approve this, can they come back later?
I'm not discussing that with the board.
But the point is
But-
that on
but-
the basis upon which
Oh,
that
okay.
we make this decision is.
No, but what I mean to
does it have
say,
the frontage?
what I mean to say is that doesn't mean that it's not buildable in perpetuity. It's
It
not
does
like
not.
a conservation restriction or something.
No,
That's
they could-
associated with this like approval.
They could come in and do a subdivision. You only need 50 feet for
Which is
a
there.
road right-of-way layout.
Yeah.
So when it says, when it says not a separate building lot, it just means not a separate building lot approved under this A&R.
It means somebody could not come in and get a building permit to put a house on this lot.
Under this plan that they're presenting.
On this-
Like, this A&R approval does not give them permission to build on those lots.
Does not give them permission to build a single-family dwelling on those lots, correct?
Right. Okay. And we don't have a lot of discretion here. This is just a fact. Okay, so can we have a motion?
I move that the planning board endorse the plan for Fay Earhart Hayes by William Sparages dated November 25th, 2019 as approval not required because the division of the tract of land shown on the plan is not a subdivision because all the lots have the required area and frontage for the Resident C zoning district as required by the Concord zoning bylaw on an adequate public way. Main Street and Highland Street and parcel G and H are labeled as not a separate building lot, and to authorize the chair, clerk, or town planner to endorse the plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion of this by the board?
No.
Everything could be answered.
All right, then can I have a vote? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain, I don't really get it, so.
Yeah.
Well, do we have a quorum of the board that's voted for?
What is
Four.
abstaining? Goodness.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't, I'm, wait, what?
All right, so I think that passes with a quorum. All right, then I'd like to open the meeting to public comment. If we have any public comment, please make yourself known. Otherwise, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.